All right, everybody. This is Sam Dennehy, aka Halfass Customs, and this is another episode of Halfass Presents the podcast. Today's special guest, Gary Seed, a legendary model car builder, painter, custom car painter. The guy is just the best, and we're about to hear from him right now. So watch out. Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land, it's Sam Dennehy, aka Halfass Customs, and this is Halfass Presents the podcast. Today's special guest, all the way from South Carolina, is Gary Seeds, legendary model car builder, painter, custom car painter, everything to do with paint and customs. This is the guy. And I've been a big fan of his ever since he came out in the early 90s, and I know a lot of you have been too. So, Gary, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in this hobby?
Well, I'm a custom car and bike painter by trade. I mean, I've done that since I was a little kid. And I also built models when I was a little kid. But then, of course, like everybody else, you get to be 13, 14, 15 years old and you kind of put it aside. And, of course, you're into big cars, you're into girls, to whatever, And so as a kid, I built them, and I loved model cars. I've always had a thing for model cars. And but then I got into the big cars. And by the time I was just 13 or so, I'm painting real cars, so no more time for the models. And I did that until I was probably in my early 30s. And I picked up a model kit, the Monkey Mobile, as a matter of fact. And I thought, man, that'd be pretty cool to build that Monkey Mobile and put it on top of my TV, because the monkey show was a big thing when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. And they had that Monkey Mobile in there. And so that's kind of groomed me for cars, was the TV shows from the 60s when I was 5, 6, 7 years old. The Munsters cars, the Batmobile, the Monkey Mobile, all of that stuff. Even as a little kid, I knew I'd be a custom car painter when I grew up, because that's all I loved, was custom paint and custom cars. But I got to be in my early 30s, maybe 32 or so, and picked up that Monkey Mobile and thought, man, that'd be cool sitting on top of my TV. That's back when we had TVs that didn't hang off your walls. They sat on a little coffee table or whatever, and you could put stuff on top of them. And I thought that'd be pretty neat. So I buy this Monkey Mobile from this guy, and I go home and I build it, and I set it on top of my TV. And I thought, man, if I built one model a month, after a year, I'd have like 12 models, which I thought was a lot of models. And so I bought that Monkey Mobile from a guy. His name was Tony Dominic. And he had a lot of model cars and stuff. And I didn't know anything about model car building, model car shows, guys that collect kits, any of that stuff. I had no idea. But I went over his house, bought that Monkey Mobile, and I bought a 65 AMT Riviera. And he goes, hey man, when you build that thing, bring it back and let me see it. And I said, okay, cool. So I go home and I build it, and I figured, I'm gonna buy a couple more kits from this guy. And he says, man, that Riviera came out really cool. You got to put it in a show, in a model show. And I had no idea there was model shows. And this was like, 1992. And,
Right.
He said, you got to put it in a show. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, this is a model car. I'm going to go to a model car show. I'm going to be competing against kids that are 8 years old, 10 years old.
Right.
I'm thinking, dude, I don't want to do that. He says, no, man. He goes, there's guys your age, there's guys younger, there's guys 60, 70 years old that enter in these shows. So I went to the next one, which was in Orange County. It was called Orange Con. It was an IPMS show. And I went there, and it just like opened up my eyes to the whole model car community, the shows, the kits, the magazines. I had no idea prior to this that there was just a big, strong following. You know, I thought it would be cool to have 12 models in that one year. I think in that first year, I probably bought 200 kits. You know, I just went bananas and was buying up kits, hitting up all the model car vendor swap meets, all the model shows, started entering. And you know, and luckily for me, some of the magazines were picking up the builds that I was doing, and they were featuring them in magazines. And yeah, it was just you know, really enlightening, you know, because before that I was in, you know, paint shops. I was painting real cars, motorcycles, whatever. The crowd of guys that I knew were mainly, you know, the low life type guys that would hang around custom shops, and you know, I didn't know there was a whole different world out there. And model cars kind of, you know, it kind of saved me, really. It got me out of hanging around with guys that were, you know, getting in trouble all the time. And I met new friends, and yeah, and I've been building them ever since. You know, I've been building models now. It's 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years. And I haven't stopped yet.
That's pretty much how long I've been building it. The very first lowrider bike magazine came out, and it was in my 7-Eleven, which was literally right on the corner of my street. And I walked over there because I was already in the lowriders. So I was buying the lowrider magazine every month. And then I saw this magazine. I was like, they made a bike magazine? So I'm flipping through it, and then the back part of that issue had the cars in it. I was like, wait, what?
Right.
And then they showed the car. I don't know, it was like maybe a purple 64 hopping. And I was like, wait, what? Not only can you make it a lowrider, you can make it bounce. I was in love with them ever since, and I've never stopped being in love with them.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, lowrider models have been around forever. I remember, you know, when I was a kid, guys were making lowrider models. You know, 71, 72. I was probably 10, 11, 12 years old. And, you know, low riding was a big thing in my neighborhood. So you'd build models of lowriders, and all your buddies built models of lowriders, you know, at the time. And also, you know, the big thing then was this kind of the street freak, jacked up, big fat tires all the way around. I love that style too. And yeah, so all my buddies and me, we would build models. But then, of course, like I said, a couple years later, we're into getting real cars, and we're you know, chasing every girl around, and no more time for model kits. But as I progressed through the years, you know, even got into my older teens, you know, I'd you know, be hanging out with my buddies at their house, and they'd still have all their models. You know, they don't build anymore, but they would be all displayed in their bedrooms and stuff. And yeah, model cars are a big part of my life, even though I didn't realize it at the time. You know, they were always around me. And you know, even before I was building models, my brother Gene, who's older than I am, would build models as a teenager in the, you know, the middle 60s. And I remember I'd get up on the dresser, you know, and I'd grab these models and bust them and try to play with them, and he'd come in and beat my butt. And yeah, I remember models even as 5, 6 years old. Matter of fact, I think the first model I ever got was, I was probably 6 or 7 years old. My mom had bought me a model of the Munsters coach
Nice.
because it was on TV. And I think that's the very first model that I ever had. And then, back then models were $1.98, $2 for a kit. 68, 69, I was 8, 9 years old. And, you'd have to beg your mom to get you that model for $2.
Right.
And, but, of course, then, she'd throw your report card up in your face or whatever. And, you ain't getting no model card, man. But she'd always break down and get me that model. I remember one time begging her for this Easter basket, only because it had a model kit inside it. That's all I wanted was that model kit. But yeah, models have been part of me all forever.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not as old as you, but I've been building models longer than I haven't been building models.
Sure.
I think I started when I was 9 or 10, and I'm 43, and I haven't stopped. I mean, whether I'm building a 125th scale or a 164 scale or smaller, I've never stopped. I've always been building.
Right.
And I find like for myself, I don't know about for you, keeping different scales for me keeps me into it, because there was a good long time that I wasn't progressing as a modeler, and I couldn't get any other skills like underneath my belt, because I was just stuck. And so I went into Hot Wheels, got a couple of new skills because of that scale. Then I went into the 187 scale, which is twice as small as a Hot Wheel, got a lot of new skills because of that. And then, no kidding, Edgar, no, Dedicated Magazine,
Willie.
Los Underground Kings, basically magazine. They were doing this build off, and so Edgar from Scale Riders was selling a 62 wagon, or Bel Air wagon or whatever, and I said, dude, what do you want for this? I need to build this car. I've got these ideas, and I want to build it for the build off. And I got 10th place, but hey, at least I was building it again, and now I'm just back and forth building every scale.
Yeah. Now that was Dedicated Magazine? They're built off a few years ago.
Yeah.
I was in that same contest, I think.
I think so. Yeah. So my problem was I got burnt out of the 125th scale because of the skills wasn't jumping up high enough and quick enough. And so I got into the Hot Wheels. I stayed in Hot Wheels for about 5-6 years and didn't touch a model card. And then I said, I'm getting tired of the Hot Wheels because these guys from Japan and Indonesia, they're just dominating the custom car world in Hot Wheels. Their paint and everything is just phenomenal. There was no way I was even close to that. And so I was like, all right, well, let me get into a smaller scale. So I got into the 187 scale, and nobody was doing anything compared to what we do in the bigger scale in that scale. So I was like, I'm going to make lowriders, rat rods, custom cars. I'm going to make all of them that nobody's doing. And still today, there might be only, maybe in the world, a handful of people, literally maybe 5, that do anything custom, like what we're equivalent to in the model car world. So I kind of dominated that, just flooded the whole entire scale with rat rods, hot rods, customs, and lowriders for that scale. And then that Dedicated Magazine contest brought me back into the 125th scale. So there was a 125th scale break, probably 8 years.
Wow.
And then I just jumped back like I never stopped. And then the skills were so much better. And I've just, no kidding, right when COVID hit and we got sent home, I built 7 model cars all while I was on the clock at work, because I could just build them right in front of my computer.
Right. That's another thing too, is, in the early 90s when I first started this to today, the model cars have like changed as
Yeah.
far as like, skill level. Some of
Right.
these guys are just, it's unbelievable. And they didn't used to be like that. You could go compete and do pretty good. And now,
Well, perfect example. Think about like 94, 95 when Armando built Local 64. And then I
right,
think the next year or 2 years later, Las Vegas came out. And that was the skill level. That was the pinnacle of like the lowrider models. Like nobody could beat them. Nobody could come close to what they were coming up with. Now, there was a lot of people very close. I mean, DA was close. I mean, you were very close. Like in actual straight up detail, like these guys were just at the top. And there's so many people beneath them. And you were thinking that was where I needed to be. And it stayed that way for quite a while. And then, like you said, something shifted where it's like all the NASCAR guys that put every lug nut and every twist tie and every little thing on the detail of their cars said, we're going to start building lowriders now and custom cars and take the world by storm. I mean,
right.
those NASCAR guys didn't do that, but that skill level of building the NASCARs jumped into our world of models now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
amazing.
And it could be a lot of just seeing those NASCAR cars is what influenced a lot of the lowriders. And you know what else has also jumped like crazy is the paint. The paint work and the paint jobs compared to the mid 90s to today.
Yeah,
is crazy. I mean, some of these guys are just painting that unbelievable.
who did I never did. I mean, I did know at one point because I have the lowrider model magazine of it, but who did that? I don't know, 39 or 37 four-door
Yeah, the
bomb.
Gangster of Love.
Is that what it is with the murals all over it?
Yeah, Gangster of Love.
That thing was amazing. I mean, the paint, the murals, and it was just amazing. And you don't see, like, the crazy thing about today, though, you don't see murals like you did in the 90s today. You see paint schemes beyond belief, but you don't really see murals like that.
Right. Yeah.
Because in Las Vegas was all muraled on the side panels and the hood and then the trunk. And that was actually airbrushed, besides the regular paint, which was airbrushed. But you don't see murals that crazy and that wild.
Was it Hector Lozano? Was that his name?
I'd have to dig through my lowrider magazine issues to see.
I almost want to say that was Hector's, but I don't know for sure. My memory sucks, but I totally remember the car because I mean that car made a freaking impact.
I mean, it's probably, in my opinion, maybe in a lot of other people's opinions, the best bomb ever built in that scale.
Yeah, it quite possibly could be.
I mean, there's a lot of good ones, behind it, but that, I mean, for the time and for the detail, I don't think there's been a better one. I mean, maybe there has, but I don't think so.
Well, I mean, here it is 25 years later, and we're still talking about it.
Exactly.
So yeah, that car definitely, man, when it hit, it was like, what the hell?
Right.
Gangster Love.
That's like listening to the story when you were just on Edgar's podcast with Armando and David talking about Las Vegas and how they were building it at the same time and trying to see who was going to be first to put it out. Like just that car alone. And that car's been replicated in that scale at least 3 or 4 times now.
Sure.
So to think that car is that popular to replicate that many times, just like Local 64, I know there's 2, Armando's and somebody else's. But that somebody else also did the Las Vegas car and did a whole bunch of memorable cars too. They're just not at the skill level as Armando's or David's.
That might be our Armando Avila.
Maybe
Armando Avila did Gypsy Rose. I think he did a Las Vegas car,
Yeah,
and a couple of other replicas of
right.
other real cars.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's probably him that I'm thinking of.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Armando Avila. He used to work for Lowrider Bicycle magazine.
Oh wow.
Um, and yeah, I know Armando for years. He's a really cool dude, man. And he loves freaking model cars, man. I mean, he's all about model cars.
Well, this is my thing with models. You could have a real car and spend, you know, tens of twenties of thirties of $1,000s into it, or more, 50 to 100,000 to build a perfect show car. But if you want to get a show car in this scale, a couple $100 and you got it.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
so much easier to obtain than the real one.
yeah, yeah. And in some instances it's nicer, you know. Um, you don't have the maintenance, you don't have the having to worry about where you park it, and you
Exactly.
know,
You don't have to worry about turning it on. That's for sure.
right. Yeah, definitely it's a good substitute for the real thing, you know. Plus I don't know if I'd want to have the real thing, you know. I just want to build something, look at it, you know, and you know, take it for what it is. It's a model car, and
Right. Well,
yeah, I mean, I've had cars.
I will say not a show car, but a driver, a nice
Yeah.
driver. I take that all
Oh
day.
yeah.
But I don't need a show car because a show car, you'd be too scared to do anything with it. One
Right.
little
Yeah.
scratch and you're repainting the whole entire panel.
Yeah. I did that a few years ago. I built a 67 Impala for myself. And it was a driver. I drove that thing every day for as long as I had it. And I drove it for 4.5 years or so. And every day I'd get it, whether it was snowing, whether it was raining. And the thing was, you know, candy apple and metal flake and hydraulics and, you know, but yeah, I mean, and I built it myself. So, and I knew what I had invested into the car. And
Right.
if it got totaled, oh well, you know. And then I painted it, drove it around for another year or so, and then people said, you know, well, why'd you sell it? You know, it was, you know, like so nice. I go, dude, once I paint them, I'm done. There's nothing else I can do with it. So yeah, it went away. Now it's out in California. Supposedly, well, not supposedly, because I actually talked to the guy. The guy that owns it, his parents owned Lowrider magazine when it was out.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. That's crazy. Well, I know it's for sale again because we were just talking about that a couple days ago or a week
That
ago.
that poor car gets around more than coronavirus did back in the pandemic. Um, that car, I sold it to a guy in North Carolina, or I think in Upper South Carolina, who sold it to a guy in Florida, who sold it to a guy in Detroit, I think,
Damn.
who sold it to another guy, and now it's all the way in it's in California. It's in I forget the name of the city. It's where OJ Simpson used to live. Brentwood. It's in Brentwood, California.
That's crazy.
And that's the last. Oh, and I think it got sold to somebody up in Northern California before this guy got it. So
And
that poor
you
car
too
can't find a
long
home.
ago. You didn't sell it too long ago. It's only been what, maybe 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, it seemed to get sold like every other month for some reason. It get
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the price would go higher and higher and higher and higher on that car.
That's even more crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't have nearly the show car or nice paint job that you did, but I did have this car for a while.
Oh, okay, 63 wagon.
Yeah, and I painted that all with spray paint.
Really?
Yeah, I watched a lot of Monster Garage back when that was on. In
Right.
the earlier episodes, Jesse James would show that that his painter, how he painted the flames. And so
Right.
I masked off the whole car and then took that pinstripers tape and then made seaweed flames or spaghetti flames. And then I laid tape all over that, outlined the tracing, and then
Right.
cut it and spray painted that. So it's all cheap paint. It's Walmart 99-cent can spray paint.
Right. Yeah, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
What
The
are
only
those
thing,
hubcaps?
I don't know. A friend gave me those hubcaps and said, "Here, these will look good on your car," because underneath those hubcaps are I don't know what you want to call them, rims, but they're almost like rims you'd put on a trailer. They have those little pie cutouts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're back in the day, like in the 70s, we used to call them snow rims, because you would see them on vehicles that like Jeeps and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of
Were they
what was
white?
underneath them. And I didn't like them at all. They fit the tire that I had, and
Right.
they said we got to put hubcaps on them, so put hubcaps. Oh,
Yeah.
and then the only like crazy creative thing I did on this was, I doubt you'll be able to see it, but underneath the flames are red pinstripe flames. I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I do see some red in there.
Yeah, and that goes all the way down the panel. It's all the way on the hood. Like in this other picture, I've got a picture of the hood better.
Okay.
So I did all the pinstriping myself.
Oh, I see the flame.
Yeah. And I remember it was the weekend before Paso Robles. And I said, I gotta paint the flames underneath these flames. I gotta pinstripe them. So I went and got pinstripers, paint the one shot with the brush. And I spent all week up till Friday, I think, no, Thursday night at like 3 a.m, pinstriping that car.
Wow.
And then Friday afternoon, we headed up there.
Yeah. I've done that before. I mean, I've spent all night. I did a car, a 50, I think it was a 49 or a 50 Ford, had a chop top, slammed on the ground. I did it satin black, and then I flamed this car from the headlights all the way back to the deck lid. I did the deck lid, I did the roof. I even ran the flames up the windshield and down the rear window, the licks. And I did them all in metal flake gold over this black. And then I pinstriped this thing white, and pinstriped it all night long. The car left that morning, like it was my buddy's car. It left like at 7:30 that next morning. He drove it to, there used to be a car show called The Blessing of the Cars.
Yeah. I took that in there. It made a newspaper newspaper article about the show. They used that car to use a newspaper article about the show for.
Yeah. So Blessing of the Cars, it won Best Flame job. Yeah. And then the next year, with a different car for the same guy, I won another Best Flame. And that was a 56 Buick that I flamed and pinstriped and did all that crap. It was a black with blue flames and silver flames. And on the deck lid, I did these flames that kind of shot out like a sunrise or whatever. And then I did a spiral, candy blue spiral through the middle of them. That also won Best Flame.
I feel like I've seen those cars. I've had to have seen those cars.
Yeah, they were there at Paso Robles. There was I kind of still am, but back then I was in a car club called the Yakety Yaks, and this was a Yakety Yak car, and all the guys used to go to this thing, and we had the Yakety Yak, plaques in the back window. I still have mine; it's hanging in my garage.
Nice.
But yeah, Paso Robles show. I've been to the Paso Robles show too before. Yeah. We used to go up there like Turlock for the car swap meet. Yeah. Paso Robles for the show. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a ride. You had to ride up there.
Yeah, that was a long ride.
Do you know who Bill Hines was?
Of course.
Hines?
Yeah.
Okay.
Legendary.
So Bill Hines, He asked me one day, because he used to do Paso Robles, right?
Yeah, he
He
did.
would do that every year that he could. But Bill would want to take 3 and 4 cars because he had all these cars. And so he asked me one day, he said, Gary, I want you to drive my 59 El Camino. He had a candy apple red 59 El Camino and needed another driver to drive it up there. And he was going to drive, he had a car called the Little Bat, a little, I think it was
Yeah,
like the 54, the black one with the
yeah.
wings or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of other cars that he wanted to take up there. And I was going to take this car up there for him. I was going to ride up there following them and then ride the thing back. And at the last minute, I didn't go, and I got my buddy Paul to go. Paul is, if you remember a car that was on the cover of Lowrider magazine, I painted it back in the 80s. It was called Pandemonium. It was a 69 Impala, and it's on the cover, 1989 cover, I think it is. But I talked Paul into going, and so Paul rode up there, followed him, and he come back and he says, man, you are so lucky, because Paso Robles is a ride.
Yes.
From Bill's shop all the way out there and back.
Right.
Well, he had to stick behind Bill. Bill had a habit of driving 35 miles an hour.
No way.
Yeah. Paul was like pissed. He goes, dude,
Definitely.
it took him like, it's usually like a 5-hour drive to begin with. He said, man, it took like 11 hours to get
Oh my
back
God.
home. Yeah.
That's
So
wild.
luckily I didn't do that one.
Well,
But yeah, Bill Hines, and when we're talking about the Blessing of the Cars show. Yeah. And then somebody came up with a anti-Blessing of the Cars show. I'm not really sure.
I never went to that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. Oh, you know what it was? It was, from what I've heard, it's something about the guy that put on the Blessing of the Cars had a disagreement with some other guys, and those other guys went and made their own show.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty strange. But
Well, so here's a funny thing. My little backstory is, I don't know, I was younger than 10, and I saw this first this first rap video with a car bouncing. And that was my first, involvement in low riding, and I fell in love. You can make a car hop, and it's not a movie that's doing it. These are real people making it. I fell in love, and I was in love with it ever since. And then the Lowrider Bicycle magazine came out, and I said, oh, I can make my own lowrider? What? So I was into it all through the 90s. And then coming out of the 90s, I had that wagon still, and it was all white, and I had these little 14-inch spokes. The old school spokes with the big, huge center cap that literally had the lug nuts behind the center cap of the spoke.
yeah,
So the spokes were only maybe like 2 inches long.
right. Yeah,
I had a set of those without the center cap. So the lug nuts were just showing. It looked like I was just a piece of junk car
right.
trying to be a lowrider. And I was driving around with that. And then where we moved to a little town called Camarillo, which is right in Ventura County, 2 hours north of LA. And they had a show the first year we moved up there called the Primer Nats.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I went to the very first show of that, and that was my first involvement with rat rods and primered cars, because I was a lowrider guy. So everything at a lowrider show was painted. You didn't show up without a painted car. Like, you just didn't do it.
Right.
And so going to a show where all these cars were primered and still in process, I said I could do that. And that was the whole vision for that wagon. Said,
right.
I don't have the money to build a lowrider. I don't have the money for the hydraulics. I don't have the money for the interior. I don't even have the money for the paint job, but I can build it into a rat rod.
Right.
And so that was the whole vision of that satin black with the flames and the pinstriping and the fat white walls. But I've always been a lowrider guy.
Oh
Always.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
always
Well,
will be.
there's a saying, lowrider for life.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if you're young or old, or if you haven't owned a lowrider in the last 20 years, that
right.
part of you never ever gets out of you. You're always going to gravitate towards that style of car if you
Hmm.
can.
We'll get this. So early in the 90s, you go to the lowrider super shows or the lowrider shows around Southern California, and it was demographically filled with two type of people. The third type of person you just didn't see there. So when you did see that third type of person, which was the white people, me and my dad, because I couldn't go by myself as a young kid, we just got these looks like you don't belong here. This is our stuff. This is our culture. This is you. This isn't for you. And it
Right.
just drove me crazy. Like, I love this stuff. So how could this not be for me? And then, no kidding, late 90s, super late 90s, say 99, 2000 maybe, then you actually started seeing white people involved in the lowrider world. They had full-on lowrider cars, the paint jobs, the whole nine, and it still looked out of place compared to what I remembered of the 90s lowriders being in Southern California. And I thought, these guys aren't going to be accepted. And then slowly but surely, more and more white people got into it. And I was like, finally, it took this long.
Yeah. I think you can thank Lowrider Magazine for that, because just widespread over the states. You could
Yeah.
thank all the MTV and rap videos
Right.
that had cars in the videos, and
Well, yeah,
then
that's the first lowrider. I mean, growing up in Southern California, you'd expect I'd have seen them, but I didn't probably even identify that it was a lowrider until I saw it hopping. And the first
right.
time I saw hopping was in a lowrider or at a rap video on MTV. So yeah, it most likely was all of MTV, maybe. I mean,
Oh yeah,
unless because if you grew up, say, in this white suburban town where there was no lowriders, then you wouldn't have had access to that. You wouldn't been exposed to that. So
no,
MTV would have
not at
been.
all. Yeah, not at all. I grew up in a housing project, and you had white lowriders, you had Hispanic lowriders, you had black lowriders. This was even late 60s, early 70s. My mom,
Crazier.
my mom, when I was 10 years old, my mom drove a lowered on chrome reverse wheel 63 Impala. My brother had a slam to the ground 57 Chevy on chrome reverse. My sister Margie in 68 had a 67 Impala slammed. And by the time I was 16, I got a 66 Impala on Kragers and 520s.
That's
You know,
awesome.
it was it's what I grew up around. It was, in the family. And so, yeah. And ever since I was a little kid, I mean, I was always drawing them and,
Yeah, right.
dreaming about them. And I remember in junior high, like the seventh grade in art class, we had they made us do these needlepoint,
Oh wow.
like needlepoint stuff. I
Yeah,
get a
like,
63 Impala on mine,
that's
you know,
awesome.
yeah, slammed on the ground, you know. I remember in 73, I was in junior high. I think in 73, I was probably in the eighth or ninth grade. And I want to say it was Hot Rod magazine, but in 73 had an article with a pictorial of the Imperials lowrider car club.
Oh
And
wow.
man, I mean, I have that magazine here somewhere because I collect a lot of that old stuff. But I remember having it stuffed in my history books, or whatever. And that's what I was looking at all day, just staring at Gypsy Rose or whatever. And, um, you know, so yeah, that all kind of formed me, all that stuff growing up. And then years later, I got to become buddies with Walt Prey, who painted the Gypsy Rose. So,
Wow.
we would sit and I could talk to him, and it's I've been so lucky to meet the people that I have,
Yeah.
the guys that are custom car painters that are, well known, and luckily have always taken a liking to me. I'd get to talking to them and I'd show them stuff that I did, and they'd always say the same thing. They go, "Man, where have you been?" Because they get hit up by so many dudes that hey man, I want to show you this, show you that, and that they don't respect that. But if you just kind of just be normal around them.
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, the reason I believe people like you and they gravitate towards your kindness or whatnot is because you are kind. You just straight out of the box. Because I can remember, no lie, and this is to go with the lowrider shows, but even in the model car world in the early 90s, mid 90s, me being a young teenager, white guy trying to go build lowriders with the best of you guys, and they just saw me as a young punk kid that was not worth telling anything to, because I'd ask them, I'd be like, "Hey man, you mind telling me how you did this and how you did that?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, it's just we just painted." They just
Yeah,
be so cryptic and so, like you're not worth talking to. And so I grew up that way. And then going to lowrider shows is kind of the same thing. You get these stares, you get these, whatever, whatever. But being able to talk to you for the very first time, and this was, I don't know, 10 years ago when I met you at the Carolina Custom Show, model show, and I said, "Oh my God, it's you." And then you put all your cars on the table because it was getting ready to pack up for the day. And I asked you if I could take a picture of them and whatnot. And you're like, "Yeah, go ahead and pick them up, move them, whatever you want." And nobody allows other people to pick up their models like that. And just the
yeah.
fact that you were that nice, you didn't even know me really or at all. And you were that nice to say, "Yeah, go ahead. It's no big deal." That just shows the kindness of you, because even I don't want nobody picking up my models. I'd be afraid they would break them or something, because who knows what might fall off. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you were just that nice of a guy just to like talk to me and
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know, it's because I get a lot of people asking me questions about how you paint this and how you do that and whatever. And I must have been like a teacher in a past life or something, because I love when people ask me stuff and I can go, "Yeah, this is how you do it." And I go, "Man, you could do it. If I show you how to do it, you can do it,"
right.
and try to instill that confidence into them, because I do what I do, the custom painting and whatever, but I want everybody to be a custom painter. I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
I just want everybody to do it so I can look at their stuff. And
Yeah.
so yeah. Um,
It's funny you
you
say
know,
that. I just did this other interview the other day with this guy, and I said, building these little tiny cars, it was an interview for the 187 scale cars. And I said, building these little cars the way I build them, and really I'm the only one doing it to this level. I'm kind of at the peak, at the top of who's doing it in this hobby. And it's kind of lonely being at the top. You want
right,
other people to do it so you can admire their stuff and see what they're doing. And they're doing it maybe because they're inspired by you, because they're saying, "Oh, it can actually be done in this scale. Oh, I definitely want to try it." And you want to see their stuff. But if nobody does it, like you're saying, if you don't teach anybody or show anybody how to do it and they don't do it, then you're stuck up here kind of by yourself, and nobody's there to like come up underneath you to say, "Hey, I took what you did and I did it my own way, and look what I did. Look what I did."
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, um, I totally love to show people stuff. I want to share that stuff. That's probably the biggest reason I started doing this YouTube page, is to, you know, it's kind of sucks because a year ago, this past November, two of my best buddies passed away, and they were model car guys to the bone. They passed away on the same fucking day.
Wow.
And yeah, and then before that, I had other buddies, probably 3 other guys. And then before that, my oldest son passed away. And
Yeah.
so I was kind of feeling down. I think I was like, pretty much I'm here at the house all the time. I'm working on cars. One of my buddies, Rick, we would be on the phone constantly. He lived in Canada, and we would just about every single day for probably over 10 years. We talked to each other. He was a model car builder, and you know what? I've never seen him. I never met him. I met him on a do you remember a website called Coffin Corner?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, there's a show rod thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, he was on there. His name was, they called him Crazy Rick. That was his handle on there. And he was a custom painter, but he also painted model cars. And so he reached out to me one day from there, like years and years ago, and we got to talking, and just message back and forth and stuff, talk about model cars and stuff. And then one day he called me, and we talked for an hour or two, and then he said, "All right, man, I'm gonna call you back in a week. Is that okay?" And then I wouldn't hear from that guy for like a year. It was like really strange. And then he'd call you like a year later, "Hey, man, what's going on? Hey, dude." And then he'd go, "All right, man, I'll give you a call next week." I said, "All right, cool." And then you wouldn't hear from him like 6 months. And then it got to the point where he'd call me 3 times a day for the last 8 years, and we just bullshit about models and whatever the topic of was going on. So when he passed away, for a whole year, I hadn't talked to anybody on the phone. Nobody calls me,
Right.
so I started kicking around this YouTube thing. Oh, my other buddy that passed away the same day as Rick, he lived two streets behind me, and I would see him all the time, and I've known him for years too. And he's a model car. Matter of fact, the South Carolina Modelers Association,
Yeah.
the clubs. He's the founder of all these clubs.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he passed away a couple of years ago. But anyways, I started this YouTube thing just because, I thought I want to meet some more people and just bullshit about model kits, and model cars and painting and whatever, and,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you I think, like I said right before we started the interview, I think you have as many subscribers because not necessarily the cars, but it's you. Everybody knows the legendary Gary Seed from the 90s. And then after the 90s, like for instance, me, I remember kind of you disappeared and you weren't
Yeah.
really on a lot of the forums. You weren't doing this and you weren't doing that. And, understandably, it was probably the job and real, big cars being painted and whatnot. But everybody would always bring you up here and there. And you would have this whole, I know on Lay It Low, you had your forum page, your page, you had all your builds on it, and people would go to that forum and comment like just to bring it back up, to bring it back to discussion. Because whenever anybody talked about it, it would pop back up to the top of the list, to the front
Right.
page. So they would say something and you'd come back up every couple of months or whatever, and you were always on people's minds. And now that you're busy doing this YouTube channel and you're showing all the stuff, and then you're doing how-tos on top of that, people are like, he's back. I have an outlet to see what he's doing and see what he's about and all this stuff.
Right.
I think that's what it is. I think it's not necessarily the cars or the models. I think it's you that they're more interested in. And the fact that you build models is just obviously the plus.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm, like I said before, I'm like so like overly blessed with the fact that people do like what I do, like what I say, and they just like hanging out with me. That's why it says hanging with Mr. G Seeds, because people just want to come and hang out, which is cool with me. Just come and hang out and check it out. You don't have to buy anything, say anything, hang out for a while, and You know,
Well, and on top of that, when you speak in your videos, you're speaking just like you're speaking now. And people that don't know you, that don't know, say, like scale riders and can't hear you on his podcast or whatever, they just see the cars you've built in the magazines and whatnot, and the descriptions that they have on there, and they don't really have another way to follow you in any other way. They just know this legendary master car painter modeler from the 90s. And a lot of people don't know those people. They just seen them in the magazine. So now you get to talk to them and they're hearing you, and you're so down to earth compared to, say, some people that model that,
right?
you
Yeah,
know, right.
there are
Because
some
you
people
get
that you
like
wonder.
you get a master modeler, like say one of those NASCAR guys that have put 400, $500 just in parts in their NASCAR. They're not going to sit down and talk to you about every little part, especially
Right,
like a human, because they've done so much work to it. They're obviously above you because you're not going to do any of that kind of work. So now they're speaking beneath their level of
sure.
building, and they're not going to speak to you like a regular person. You speak to everybody in your video like you're one of them, and they can become one of you because it's you make it seem so easy. And
Yeah,
that's very down to earth kind of, talking to people.
yeah. And like I said, the I want I want people to do exactly what I'm doing. And if they say, hey, I want to do that too, but I just don't know how, I'll
Right.
tell them how, because I truly want model car guys to build the models that they want, you know, not so much you don't have to go compete or whatever, but just to stand back and go, yeah, that looks exactly what I thought it was going to look like when I started it. It's time to start another one, you
Right.
know.
Well,
But
here's what's funny. Speaking of models and people building them, you sent my daughter this 59 Cadillac, and we just got the wheels in the other day. Check these wheels out. They're
oh yeah,
22,
but the white wall on it,
yeah,
sweet.
22-inch sombrero, 57 Chevy or 57 Cadillac wheels. And then they got this huge bullet tip on the
Yeah,
front wheels.
those are freaking awesome.
Yeah, that'll look cool. But
Who
I
made
went to
those?
huh?
Who made those?
I found them off eBay.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
I just looked up 57 Cadillac rims, model car rims. And so things just popped up, and then the link was there. And I was like, yep, these are the ones we're going to get. But I went to a show a week after that show that we made the deal for with her Cadillac. And I found the same damn Cadillac at that show. So obviously I bought it because these things are getting rare and rare.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can find it. I'm going to build this crazy custom Cadillac El Camino. It's an orange El Camino Cadillac. And it's being built in Australia or New Zealand. And it's unbelievable. And I'm going to build it off of the Cadillac that I got. But I got to show you these pictures because these are just wild. If I can find the pictures. But the reason I'm telling you this, because I was going to start building that here very soon. But then when we were at that show in South Carolina, I bought a 58 Impala Ravel because I
Right.
wanted to pick that wagon. That wagon just came in the mail.
Nice.
So now I'm not going to build this Cadillac right now. I'm going to build that wagon and then build the Cadillac. I got to find this picture. You're going to love it because it's right up your custom crazy alley of cars. Just bear with me. It's right here somewhere. I know it is because I was just looking it up the other day. And I found it pretty easy. Not there. But I don't know. I don't know if you've seen it. You may have seen it. I just got it pulled up. Let me get a good picture of it.
Is it a brown one?
It's orange.
Orange.
So it's so customized that he's got 57 Corvette scoops on the fenders and the doors.
Right.
He's got 50, 57 Chevy hood Dagmars or whatever you want to call them. They're not hood ornaments, but they're the little arrows that
Yeah,
come out.
they used to call them sights.
Yeah,
Bullet sights.
yeah, that's what he's got on the hood. I guess this is a good picture. It's good enough.
Oh wow. I think I've seen that car.
Yeah, I mean it's had several renderings of it so far, but this is the latest photo of it.
I think I've seen that car when it was in primer.
Well, so this is kind of one of the oldest photos of it, back when it just had the
Right.
two wheels in the back. But then he did this one recently.
Yeah, the tandem.
Yeah, and then he just added these crazy rear chrome like
Right.
skirts.
Huh.
So I was gonna build this out of that Cadillac.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's got the Corvette roof on it too. At least
Well,
the panel of the roof.
so what he said is he took a four-door flat top
Right.
and then shortened the roof. So
Okay.
that's the rear. Maybe some better light. That's the rear glass for a flat top.
Yeah. Maybe
then
like a
just
60 or something.
Yeah, he took the rear doors out, kept the front doors, and shortened those a little bit. But I love this thing so much because it's so wild that I've been waiting to find a Cadillac so I can build this out of. But you can
Right.
see the hood. The hood's got those little arrows in it.
Yep. Yep.
Kind of.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
them. That's 57 Chevy.
yeah, and then he's got these 57 Cadillac Dagmars for it.
Right.
So I gotta find the Dagmars. I think somebody probably makes a resin bumper for it that I can probably just buy the bumper.
I think a buddy of mine is planning on making those Dagmars right now. I just talked to him a couple of days ago.
This was the original drawing for it. So they were taking
Wow.
this idea and building it into a real car. I
Yeah.
almost just want to build this version of it because it's
Yeah.
got the single rear axle. And then I don't have to put the Continental kit bumper on it because in the real car it's got the Continental kit rear bumper.
Right.
Just to make it longer. I don't really want it longer.
Yeah.
Kinda
It doesn't seem it needs that.
right. Because there is it's not on here, but oh, here we go. This is how it looks from the back, and I really don't like that rear extra tire cover back there.
Right.
It kind of seems pointless to me. But regardless, it was right up our custom car love, and I've been wanting to do that forever.
Dude, you have to see this. I just ran across this yesterday, I think. It's on YouTube. And I don't remember the name of the channel, but it's Montana Customs or something like that. This dude, and I want to build a model of this thing so bad. He built it's like a 64, 65 Buick Riviera station wagon. And it is freaking awesome. It's slammed on the ground. It's got Astro Supremes on it right now, I think. I want to say it's even chopped, but it was, I mean, I saw it and I just stopped.
A Riviera wagon? I want to say I just recently seen a Riviera wagon as well, but that might have been a model. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, this is a real car. And man, I need to find that link because I mean that thing was just freaking awesome.
Yeah, I thought because I have the computer right here, I could type in Montana Customs. Montana Customs.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Montana Customs or something similar. Montana for sure. Um, but dude, that car was, I mean, I just thought, man, that is like bitching.
I mean, a Riviera wagon would be cool. There was a guy here in North Carolina who took a 67 Cadillac and put the Riviera grill and headlight covers on the front of the 67 Cadillac and didn't have to modify the fenders at all. Everything just fit with the way the Riviera headlights were and whatnot. And he actually made the lights work. So the grills open up clamshell for the lights to
Right.
be shown. And it was
Huh.
so cool. But he sold
Yeah.
that car. And I never got to see it in person. I only saw photos of it.
I had a 65 Riviera at one time, and those damn clamshells never worked. I'd always had to get out and open one of them, you
Oh
know.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
But
cool
yeah, those
idea
are such cool cars.
because they were vacuum
Right.
open and closed. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I had a 67 Riviera also, and it had those actually worked. They flipped back. They were like that, you know, where the
Oh,
clamshell does this.
yeah.
These were actually in the front and would flip up.
Oh, they
And
were in the grill though. Were they in the grill?
yeah, they were in the grill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are cool. I mean, just hideaway headlights in general are cool because you don't
Oh
see
yeah.
those in
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah,
You know what,
definitely.
I was actually watching something on YouTube that they said all the cars like in today's market, 2000, say 2000 and up, or maybe even 2010 and up, no car manufacturer in the world is allowed to make pop-up headlights in any car.
Huh.
Those are all illegal. But if you have them from period correct car, then you can drive them. Just like,
Right.
you can drive a 1950 car without seatbelts because it wasn't even a thing back then. It was just an option. So you won't
Right.
get a ticket for not having your seatbelt on. So you can't build any car today with any kind of pop-up headlight because it's like some kind of safety hazard, supposedly.
Huh. Maybe that's why the Corvettes went away. You know, the popped up headlight. That was a big thing for them for a long
Yeah,
time.
for a very long time, even into the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I don't know when that law passed. I recently saw a video saying things you will never see today in cars, and
Right.
that was a big thing because that was in a lot of cars. Porsches had them, Corvettes had them. Like a
Yeah.
lot of cars had pop-up headlights.
Yeah. You could even get some of the Impalas like 67, 68, 69 that had hideaway
Oh,
headlights.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that because they made the 67 Impala kit, model car kit, but nobody made the hideaway headlight bumper grill combo. So when somebody made it in resin, they were going for like mad money because they were like,
Yeah.
oh, finally,
Yeah.
get the car without the headlight showing.
Yeah. Everybody wanted them.
That's cool. It's so funny I watched that whole episode of you and David and Edgar and Armando talking, and you guys are just talking about the history, like your guys' history. And I remember living as a third person vendor, kind of watching that play out. And it's so cool. Like, I can't remember 90% of those model car shows that we went to back then. I remember where
Right.
they were, but I don't remember their names. And these guys are just popping out these names. Like, how do you remember that? And then Armando has like every flyer forever. Like, that's
Right.
just insane. Those flyers, as soon as the show is over, those went into the trash.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just threw some away today, that were in here.
Right.
Like, what am I saving these things for?
Yeah, exactly. Because Armando's crazy because I don't know if any of that stuff he has, those flyers, are going to be valuable in any way. It'll be a neat collector's item, but are they worth anything?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is they're worth something to him,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. And
and
that's exactly it.
yeah, yeah. Any value beyond that is,
Right.
it in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
That's
Somebody else might go, dude. I remember going to that show, man. I'd love to have that, flyer.
this is the show I won my first trophy in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're not
Me,
going to find it anywhere else, that flyer, because they
no,
were all printed. We weren't using the internet back then.
no, no. And it's kind of a trip too, because I was thinking about it. There used to be a show called the Carson Kit Classic,
I heard of
and
it, I never went to it.
yeah, and we that was a really good show. A lot of vendors, a lot of people would show up for that show. Um, but the flyer, I drew one part of that flyer, and David Garcia drew the other part of that flyer. So both of us were on the same flyer.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and when Armando was pulling up all that stuff, I I thought to myself, you know what? I have some of David's original sketches somewhere out in the garage. I need to find that stuff and see if he wants it back. But I've had it, man, for 30 years,
You might.
and I don't know why I still have it, but I do.
Well, it's just those things that you put in a box and you're like, I'll get to this eventually. And then they just stays in that box for 30 years. And you're like, I forgot I even had this stuff. This is
Right.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, those drawings, they hold no value to me, but David might say, yeah, man, I forgot all about those. Yeah, send them back. You know Tom Daniel.
Oh, yeah. The
Okay.
legendary. Yeah.
Yeah. Now Tom Daniel, um, he he this buddy of a buddy of mine showed up to my house one day and knew I was into model cars and crap. And he brought me some old car show programs from like 1971, 72. And he said, dude, he goes, I got these out of a garage sale or something. I thought you might want them. I go, cool, man, because I do like old car show car programs. So I open them up, and inside there are 3 drawings of cars. And they look like slot cars or model cars or something. And on one of the drawings, it says T. Daniel, 1966.
Wow.
So I'm looking at them and I go, fuck, dude, I think this might be Tom Daniel. So through the computer, I locate Tom Daniel and I talk to him on the phone and I tell him I got this stuff. And he says, do me a favor, send me a copy of them. And I said, dude, I'll send you back the original drawings. He goes, no, you don't have to do that. Just send me a copy. So I send him a copy and he gets them and he goes, man, he goes, I can't imagine how you got these. These were drawings that were amongst a bunch of other stuff of mine that was in a storage facility in Los Angeles somewhere. And he had gotten a divorce. And his wife sold off this storage thing. So he had no idea where these drawings went. Right. And what it was one of them was for testers. It was a slot car design. I think 2 of them were for testers, slot car designs. And the other one was just a sketch idea. So I asked him, I go, dude, you want these back? And he goes, no, you can have them. He is trying to collect like old artwork of his. I guess this was probably, man, you're talking 15 years ago. This happened, and anyways, he said, "No, man, you can keep them." So I kept them, and then he sent me prints of his like newest drag racing stuff, and he signed each one of them, and
that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I weird ways I've met like all kinds of like really, important people that have influenced, like Ed Roth. I went to a car show one time, and you know Ed Roth, Big
Yeah.
Daddy, Rat Twink, da 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 da.
I got the rat right here. Yeah.
Hey, I got one here. If you can
Which
see,
one?
yeah, there he is right there. But I was at a car show in California, Route 66, it was called,
Oh, it's San
and
Bernardino. Yeah.
San Bernardino,
Yep.
and
Been to that one
yeah,
plenty of times.
so I'm there, and Roth is there, and he's got a T-shirt stand set up, and he's
Oh,
just sitting there. Nobody's even really stopping in this thing. And I was involved with some people at one time that wanted to do a TV show, and they wanted me to actually host the show. It was an idea that they had, and it was going to be car related type stuff. So I
yeah.
saw Ed Roth there. So I sat down and started talking to Ed Roth man, we talked for an hour and a half, just bullshitted about cars and crap and his old stuff. And then he gave me his phone number because he said he was totally interested in being on that show. And
Oh,
but the show never happened. Um, you remember this has to be in the late 90s when videos of like near misses became very popular, like people almost getting hit by a train or
right.
walking through glass. Well, these people went on and bought all these footage from cameras that
Mhm.
nobody wanted, and they made these TV shows out of them, and it became very popular. And so they canceled the car show type thing and focused on that.
On crappy reality TV.
Right. Exactly. Before there was really reality TV.
Yeah.
It was called Smoking Gun Productions was the name of it at that time.
I remember that name.
Yeah. And all that was this girl and her husband that I used to work with. At one time I used to work for Disney as a production artist, and they worked in the art department there. And they had this idea, and they said, "Dude, you'd be the perfect guy, man." All right, cool. So, but it never happened. But I got to
Well,
meet Ed Roth out of it.
exactly, which is probably
Yeah.
the coolest part of that story. Um,
Right.
I was going to say there was a model show in Virginia that had a Tom Daniels category,
Oh
and
yeah.
I built this Baja bus, one with that little tiny dune buggy bike in the back,
Yep. Yep.
that orange one, and I built it into a drag racing car, and I took it to that show. I built that model probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I put, I think, 40 decals all over it, racing decals, like bumper
Right.
sticker decals all over it, then flames over those decals. And then I painted the whole car black and then took uh, paint thinner and rubbed it off to just make it look like it was sitting forever, just, but it still could run. And then the Miss Deal drag racing
Oh
motor,
yeah.
I took that motor. No, not that motor. What's the motor that has the two blowers sticking out like
Oh
this?
yeah. That's that Studebaker. I
Yeah,
got one right here.
I took that motor and put in the back of that, and it won. It won for that category, best Tom Daniels build. And I didn't know it at the time, but winning that category, Tom Daniels sent you himself a book full of his stuff, postcards, and a handwritten letter of him describing your car. So my car got sent to him, and he said, "I really like what you did with the bus and all this
Huh.
stuff." I didn't even expect any of this. I was just entering it because there was a themed category.
Yeah. That's
I never got to meet him or talk to him, but he did send me some stuff personally. I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah. He's pretty cool. He yeah, he sent me when he sent me these prints, he sent me a his one of his things, he does artwork of trains, like locomotive trains and all that. He doesn't just do the cars and stuff, but
Interesting.
he sent me a card of trains, and then he had a big, letter on the back of it. But yeah, really, really cool dude. Lives in
That's
Las Vegas somewhere.
okay. I didn't know that. The only the only famous car builder I've ever met was Gene Winfield. He was at the Primer Nats when it was still called Primer Nats. Because somehow they had to change that name. How they didn't get the copyright for that name, I don't understand. Because now it's the Ventura Nationals, but
Yeah,
it was the Primer Nats for at least 4 or 5 years, and
yeah,
it makes sense that they couldn't use that name no more. But whatever. He was there selling T-shirts and stuff, and he was so down. He was just as old looking as he was then today, but
right.
so down to earth, so willing to take pictures and talk and sign autographs, and just legend, legend. I got to see him, and funny enough, I'm guessing it was because I saw him that he's the only one left alive still.
Yeah,
Out of
it
all
could be,
the
dude.
big top guys building cars, and he's the last one standing, and
Yeah,
still.
yeah, and still doing it. I've never met Gene. When I lived in Canoga Park, it turns out that his shop, he moved to Death Valley,
Yeah,
way
he's in
up
the
there.
middle of it. Right.
But before he moved, the house that I lived in Canoga Park, I guess his shop was like 2 blocks over from my house.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, if I'd known that, I would have been hanging around there all the time. I did meet George Barris one time. I was out in Burbank, and his shop is in Burbank.
Yeah.
So I pulled over one day. I don't even know why I pulled him, but it's George Barris, you know.
Of
So I
course.
walked in, and I didn't expect him to be there. I just wanted to see the cars or what might be in the shop. And I
Yeah.
walk in, there's nobody there. I walk in, and he's sitting at a desk, and he was as nice as could be. He hey man, how's it going? I go, hey, you know, I was like starstruck because it's George Barris,
Of course.
and not only that, he takes me into the back where the garages are, and there's the Monkey Mobile is there, the Munsters coach is there, um, some replica of the car that James Dean died in, called the Little Bastard, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really nice. All these dudes that I've ever met are super, super cool. They're all
Yeah.
passed away now,
Right.
but
Unfortunately.
yeah.
But hey, without them, we wouldn't be where we are with custom cars today. That's for
Oh
sure.
no, they
Hey,
they they influenced, me drastically. I know that for sure because, you
most of
know,
us.
yeah, all of us, I'd have to say, you know.
I mean, you might like this. I had this other car. So I had bought this 56 Pontiac from a transmission shop that ended up taking ownership of the car because the owner couldn't pay to have the transmission fixed. So sitting out front of this transmission shop for months and months, maybe a half a year. And I drove by it every time. I delivered parts to the transmission shop. And I finally asked him, what are you guys doing with this car? Because it's just been sitting here and you bring it back inside the shop and back inside, whatever. And he goes, well, it's for sale now. And I said, how much you want it for? He was like, $3,000 running and driving. Can't get that today. But
No,
I was like, cool, I'll get it. So I drove that thing for probably 7 months. And then I took it to the Primer Nationals because it was primer gray. And it was all stock, but it was primered, ready for paint. And it had like the Mexican blanket type seat covers, but they were actual covers. Like they weren't just thrown over the seat. They
right,
sewed it into the fabric, made the door panels with it, but use the original style interior pattern and just use that for the actual material, which
right,
I thought was awesome. So this guy, this old man's walking around the show, puts these business cards in people's car and says, if you're wanting to trade, I'll trade you straight up for this car. And so I get one of those and I'm like, there's no way this is real. I mean, my car is not anything cool yet. It has the potential to be cool, but it's not cool yet. It's just all stock.
right.
And he shows me a picture of this car.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
And he goes, I will trade you straight up for your car if you were willing to trade. And I was like, there's no way. There's just no way. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to take a stock car off of this fully customized car.
Right.
He said, so I called him and I was talking to him. He was like, I loved your car. I looked at your car for probably 40 minutes. I looked underneath it. I looked all around it. And it's the perfect candidate for what I want to do. And I go, well, what do you want to do? And he goes, oh, I'm going to make it a lead sled. I'm going to put a Continental kit on it. I'm going to chop it. I'm going to do all this stuff. And I was like, okay. I mean, what's up with your car? And he goes, well, I did all the work myself. I shaved everything, chopped the roof, tuck and roll interior, custom skirts, door poppers for the handles, 10-inch steering wheel, louvered hood, 55 Chevy tail lights. And then we Frenched in the headlights. Oh, that's not the same car. Frenched in the headlights, shaved the dash, and molded the bumpers in, cut the bumpers, lake pipes. I said, that's good. You don't have to keep saying, because I'm sold. I'll come down there with the car and we'll check it out. And his wife worked at the DMV, so we made the deal like that night. We just sent everything over and I drove this thing home.
Huh.
And it's got that one-piece Carson top. It's got dummy headlights. The problem was he was running bias ply tires from like the 40s because they were really skinny front tires.
Right.
10-inch steering wheel with no power steering. Driving on Southern California freeways. I almost couldn't drive it all the way home because he was living in Moreno Valley. I was living in Camarillo, which is easily 2.5, 3 hours.
Wow.
And driving that car home pretty much took everything out of me.
Sure.
But it looks cool. It has this like late 80s style paint job with the pastel blue and that one scallop going down the side.
Right.
And then even named the car, I don't know if you can see it, but it's called Cold Stone. Stone Cold. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's a dumb name. I'm going to repaint that skirt instantly. And I never did. But he took a B6 late model El Camino, put a high-rise intake on it, and then put glass packs underneath it, straight piped it with glass packs. And the car was cool as shit. Awesome. The problem was he was short. I think he was like 5'2". And he didn't do anything with the seat height. So he was able to fit in that car just perfect. Me, my butt was at the very edge of the front of the seat, and my neck was at the top of the back of the seat.
Right.
And that was the only way you could drive that car, because I'm 5'9", and I couldn't drive that car. And I tried to drive that as a daily driver.
Wow.
I only worked, I think, 4 miles from my house, and I drove it as every day as I could. And so talking about custom cars and George Barris and all that, I had the opportunity to own a custom car, and it was cool while it lasted, but I had to sell it because I couldn't drive it.
Right.
And then he was the originator of the floater cap. So he made the hubcaps for the movie Grease, because no, not Grease. He made floater caps for another movie that had floating caps in it. And he said what he did for this car, it took 8 spindles in order for him to drill tap that didn't crack.
Wow.
Drill tapping them into him. So finally the eighth spindle worked, and then he just welded a nut on the back and just screwed the hubcap into the wheel. But he supposedly, this is his words, the originator of the floater cap.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true, but he was a part of the famous car club West Coast Customs that threw the Paso Robles show. And they would go up to Paso Robles every year, but he trailered it.
Yeah.
And he only really drove it during that little cruise night. And then it just sat in his driveway like the rest of the year.
Right.
It needed some work. And it was a cool car. I mean, it got looks everywhere you drove it, but
I'm sure.
I couldn't drive it like I wanted to. But yeah, it was cool while it lasted. I don't know, man. Just like you, cars are in my blood, and
Yeah,
they will always be in my blood. And I'm so happy that I was able to grow up in Southern California and not being able to afford the cars I wanted. That outlet was the model cars.
right,
And you could afford that. You may not have had the skill to build it the way you wanted, but you could afford to build it
right.
anyway. And ever since, just kept on building. And it's been,
Yeah,
I try to, it's funny you say that you took a break from models because of girls and everything else. When I dated, when I dated my wife, she'd come over the house when I was like 14, 15 years old. Oh, we've been married like 23 years. We've been dating 5 years before that. So well in through the high school. So as I'm in high school, she'd come over. I'd be in my room building. She'd just be sitting there doing nothing, bored
yeah.
off her. And then I would drag her to model car shows, which she just didn't understand at all. And when we got married, she stopped going to model car shows. She said, "I'm not doing this bullshit no more."
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Well,
Well, it's my stupid, and I still love it.
yeah, I me and my wife been over 30 years, and
Oh,
she's been to one show.
wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
one show.
Hey, at least she went once though, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah. So at least she knows what I'm doing when I'm there,
Yeah,
which is nothing but sitting around
right. And
talking to
that's all it
people.
is. I mean, unless you go to it's that's how it is out here. If we were in California with the best of the best that has to offer, I mean, hell, all of Masterpiece is pretty much out there. All of Down to Scale is pretty much out there. Like the best of the best is out there in Southern California, or all of California.
Yeah.
We wouldn't just be sitting around. We would be talking to everybody there,
Oh yeah,
and it'd be awesome. I don't know. I miss California just for the cars and the model shows.
yeah.
Just
I would never move back because it's changed so much. But
right.
I do miss the car related type stuff
Yeah. I
and the
mean, a
model
car
cars, of
show
course.
every single weekend within 200 miles of you.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a And then with the model shows, there is a model show at least once to twice a year. And that's a model car show. They're not just an IPMS show, but that's model cars. I didn't go to an IPMS show until I moved out here. I didn't even know there were IPMS shows because there were so many model car shows to go to. I
right.
didn't have to worry about going to any other kind of show.
Yeah,
And it was funny. You go to all these car shows, they throw these flyers in there. So the model car flyers and the car show flyers would all be in order for the next weekend. So I just rip one off, go to that show, rip the next one off, go to that show. And I just schedule my whole entire year around car shows and model car shows.
yeah, yeah. I don't think there was ever a model show I missed. I mean, I was constantly just waiting for that next show,
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
And,
I only been to the San Diego one once. And that was because when I started, my parents had to take me a lot of times to these model shows, and they weren't driving to San Diego for the day just for me to go to a model show. So I had to go to like a lot of local ones. And
right.
Victorville was, we lived in Riverside. So Victorville, I think, was only about an hour and a half away, maybe at the most. And that's with traffic.
Yeah.
Maybe it was, could have been less. I don't remember how long it takes to get to Victorville from Riverside. But then there's Ontario, which was only a half hour away. And then there was a bunch of other ones around, Orange County and whatnot. So you can easily get to a lot of them that you wanted
Right.
to. Now, and that's what was so great about back then. There were so many of them so close to everywhere you lived.
Yeah. Yeah. They were so close that, you just made them all because what am I going to do today anyway?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And that's what was neat. I mean, I remember maybe no, maybe 12 years old, I joined a model car club, and it was full of old white guys.
hmm,
And I love lowriders, so I was doing metal flake paint jobs with spray paint and buying the Pegasus spokes and whatnot. And they didn't understand anything I was building, and I
right.
couldn't relate to them. But then they had the flyer for the first model car show. And I don't know which first model car show I ever went to, but I remember going, and those were my people. Even though the lowrider guys kept to themselves and it was a tight-knit group and they didn't really like to talk to youngins, I still felt like these are my people. So when I
Right.
get to the skill level and I get to their level, then I'll be able to talk to these people. But this is my thing, and it'll always be my thing. It always has been.
Yeah, I remember them.
And I'll be honest, the amount of cars you built, I don't remember all the cars you took to the shows back in the 90s, but that yellow 58 wagon, it's always stuck in my head.
Yeah.
It'll always stick in my head. And I already remember that conversation you had. I will never own that car. But if that opportunity were ever to come up, I would take it in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, you never know. I think somebody
I know you
down
said
in
it's going to the club, so that's
yeah,
fine. It could go to the club. It really should.
yeah.
But if they want to give it up, I don't know, man. So you're building. The reason it took so long to do this interview is because I was hoping to go down to that show last year, stay at your house for that night, because I wanted to take some B-roll footage of your shop where you do your work at,
Right.
and your model room and whatnot, and get some like actual video footage of stuff that you wouldn't see in a regular podcast, because I wanted to add that to the podcast.
Right.
But maybe this year that show will happen later on in the year, and I'll be able to do that and maybe do a part 2 of this or something.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. You know, we're definitely going to have that show. Last couple of years, for some reason, it's just gotten screwed up. And you know, prior to that, we had it every year for 11, 15 years. You know, never missed.
I don't understand what happened last year, because we were well, I wouldn't say well out of the pandemic, but we were out of the pandemic where everything was already open. Model car shows were happening. And
Yeah.
then you guys already scheduled it because you had the flyer. So
Yeah, there was
happened.
something to do with the church had scheduled something else that day, which was so weird, because we always had it at that same place for all these years. And all of a sudden, that one time, they scheduled something else and they wouldn't back down out of it. I've got no idea.
Yeah, that's weird. I know, not trying to talk about religion, but I know a lot of churches take in a lot of money for things that they do, activities and events, whatnot, like weddings or whatever. So I'm wondering if whatever they double booked was paying more than the model car show was. So they said no.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because for all these years, that church barely charged us anything to hold that show there.
That's great.
Yeah. I mean, and then we were looking at another venue, and it turns out that venue, which was at a college here in town, they wanted like $4,000
What?
to put that show on that day. And these guys were actually, they were thinking about it. And I said, you know what, that's a lot of our club money for one day. And if we don't make it back, we're screwed. Right. I said, if we're going to do that, then we need to hold an in and out show.
Right.
That's what we need to start doing, because down here
or something. Because
yeah, this is a tourist town. We've got lots of stuff for families to do. We've got an airport here. We've got hotels. We need to start having an in and out show. That's my plan.
Well, here's what's weird is that Carolina Custom Modeler shirt that used to be an NNL.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I guess they lost the sponsorship from them or something, because it's not now. They still hold it like it's one, but it's not.
Right. You know, that's been my kind of my hopes. Eventually, I'm going to have a model car show here, I'm going to put it on, and it's going to have to be like an in and out show. Lots of
Right.
vendors, lots of people. This town is the perfect tourist place for
Right.
people to fly in from all over the states. And yeah, I just haven't figured out how to do it and get the money together at the same time you get the plan together.
Well, I can't say it'll be easy, that's for sure. But I mean, you figure Atlanta at what, the end of the year, close to the end of the year, that's one of the biggest East Coast shows there are. Then you got the Jersey one, NNL Jersey or NNL East. That's a huge one.
Right.
So to come up with one in South Carolina, it's possible. I just don't know how much work it would take to do it. I would assume a lot of work, and
Yeah.
I'd love to help you out in any way. So once you figure out when you know what you need to do and how you need to do it, count me in. I'll try to do whatever I can because if
Yeah. Cool.
a big one out here, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's room for another one. Guys, it doesn't matter where they're at. If there's a model show, they show up,
Right.
and it might be slow the first year, but after word gets out, it'll be, gradually picking up every year, I'm sure. People are talking about it. Man, I can't wait to go to Charleston for the Charleston show.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because two 2 weeks ago there was a model car show here in this state that we went to about 45 minutes from my house, which was nice. And then at the end of this month, the 28th, there's one in Richmond, Virginia. And then the very next week, there's one in Roanoke, Virginia. Both IPMS shows. No, the Richmond one is an IPMS show. The Roanoke one is just a model car show, but it's held with inside of an actual car show. So kind of like the Grand National that just happened last
Right.
week. It's done just like that, which is pretty cool because now you're not just stuck with a bunch of modelers and vendors. You can actually go see the real stuff
Sure.
while you're there. And then I think for the next 3 months, there's model shows within our 4 states: South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. Like for the next 4 months, like two model shows a month or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think oh, and then there's Myrtle Beach, but that I'm not going to that one. Have you ever been to the Myrtle Beach one?
No, and it's an IPMS show, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it is.
I don't think I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I think Myrtle Beach is 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours. I just don't want to drive out there.
Yeah, it's a couple hours from here. We were talking about Paso Robles. Do you
Yeah.
remember when Paso Robles used to have a model car show too?
I never was there for it. I remember seeing photos of it though.
Yeah.
Before I went, there were photos of it, which was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, they had a little show there same time.
Yeah, and
That was
the
cool.
neat thing is the photos I saw, they were all custom cars. There were no lowriders, there were no real hot rods. It was all customs, just
Right.
like Paso Robles was, set up to be. It was just
Yeah.
straight customs. In the model cars there were just like that, which was really neat because even at a regular model show, you don't see a ton of customs. You see a few, and then you see a lot of mild customs, just paint jobs and lowered, maybe doors open or whatever, but never full on custom cars.
Right.
And some of the old post pictures I saw of that show, these were like full on, and it was so neat to see
Yeah.
because you don't really see that. And there's still a good amount of modelers today building full custom cars, but there's not a ton of modelers doing that. Most people seem to like, and I mean, I get it, it's easy to do, but they seem to just be like doing mild customs, wild paint jobs, lowering, change wheels, change an engine, but not really doing much
Right.
because why? When if you could do that much and pull it off in a short while, you can just bounce to the next project instead of doing a
Yeah.
full interior, doors open, movable suspension, full undercarriage, trunk, and all that stuff. It's a lot of work. But
Yeah. I've never been, the one to go too crazy on details type stuff. I just like a good stance, good wheels and tires, and a nice paint, and that's pretty much what I'm comfortable with doing nowadays,
but that Pontiac that you showed in South Carolina, um, that's one of my favorite builds of yours, of your latest builds.
Okay, cool.
That thing is so smooth and clean and so
Yeah.
period correct for like that 60s, 70s style lowrider look.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And
I mean,
that's my whole thing I like.
But and I like it because it is as detailed as you gave that paint job. It's simple and subtle,
Yeah.
even though it's super detailed. And it's because you didn't do a wild, crazy interior. You didn't do a crazy, wild engine and change the grill and change the bumpers and all this stuff and did body work to it. It's a stock vehicle with an amazing paint job and a lowering, job and wheels.
Yeah. Part of what I like to do is as if the car were a real driver.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy was a, advocate of, custom cars. He
Right.
whatever of the day, lowered down a little bit, the right wheels and tires, a nice pearly paint job, but it actually looked like a driver,
Yeah.
like you might even see his wife driving it to the grocery store one day or something, or it's always sitting in their driveway
Yeah.
type of thing. And that's the kind of look I always go after, I think.
Yeah, no, it's good though, because I mean it brings more realism to the car. I like to go crazy wild on a lot of things I do, even though it's not full custom like a radical. It's not a radical, but it's wild and weird and crazy and it's eye catching. Because I find, like, for me, if I'm not gonna notice it on the table, then it's not a good model. It's gotta stand out to be noticed. And
Right.
if it doesn't, then it just blends in with everything else that's on the table. You
Yeah.
gotta make it pop. You gotta make it stand out and make it look unique. And so
Yeah.
I try to do that. And like the Pontiac, you could put all your models together on one table, and certain ones are gonna pop out more than others.
Oh yeah.
And when you see those are really special cars in my opinion, because your eye just gravitates towards how cool it looks and
Yeah.
just how
That
shiny it is.
that's why you rarely do you see me show up with a black car, because it's
Right.
just not going to pop off the table,
No.
you know. So I always try to use a color and do a paint that you're going to actually be able to see from two tables over,
Yeah.
standing out in that little group of cars, you know. That's my whole thing. I like to draw the people from at the end of the table. They just see that, Lamborghini orange down there against, pearl white or whatever, put
Right.
those
Right.
two colors together or something, and it just pops. And it's almost like it's lit up down there.
Yeah. That's why I manipulated my cars to make people look to them by putting
Right.
them lights all in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
The lights are a fantastic idea. That draws people.
yeah, because if any one of those cars were just sitting there on the table, they wouldn't stand out at all.
Yeah.
But you put flashy lights on them, and people are gonna just take a double
Yeah.
look and then walk over there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was gonna tell you, I can't say I've got every Lowrider magazine issue that you've been in, but I want to say maybe I have every Lowrider magazine issue you've been in. And I almost want to bring them to you one day when I meet you at the next show or whatever, have you sign them. But
Sure.
at the same time, I kind of don't because I'm friends with you now. It'd be different if I wasn't friends with you and you were still this mythical master god builder that I, would never ever be able to talk to or whatever. And I finally see you and you're like, oh my God, here, sign these. But now we're friends. So I don't know that I need you to sign them. I just can
Right.
just admire all the great talent that was in those magazines from you.
Yeah. Cool. I appreciate that.
You appreciate it. I appreciate that you even became a modeler because you, Armando, and only a handful of other people always were the inspired people for me to look up to, thinking that's what I want to get up to. Because there's 1,000 modelers that we see at these shows that I don't care to emulate or do anything that they're doing. Even the guys that'll build lowrider car, if it's not who I want them to be as a lowrider model builder, I don't need to, admire or not admire. I don't need to look up to them, in other words, and want to emulate or replicate something that they're doing because they might be just doing the same thing I'm doing or just have a different technique to it to make it look a little different or whatever. So I don't look at modelers like that no more like I did when I was young. But you, Armando, doing all those replicas of famous cars. I mean, even DA with Highlander or David, yeah, with Highlander. I mean that was Loco 64 just painted in purple. That thing was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Beyond awesome. And he's made so many amazing cars back in the day that
Oh
still
yeah.
today.
He's still doing them. He sends me pictures of them once a week.
Yeah,
Something that he's working on.
he's he's what what's the word I'm looking for? He seems I don't know how to explain it. He seems to get into a niche of a certain type of car, and he seems to, if I'm thinking of the right guy, seems to be building couple different versions of those kind of cars.
Hmm.
Maybe he's not doing that. Maybe I'm just thinking of somebody else. But God, well, it's like he's building bombs and he keeps building bombs, but it's not bombs. I don't know. I could be thinking of somebody completely different.
Yeah.
But either way, he's an awesome builder. And I've always loved everything he built.
Oh, he's an awesome artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish he would show more of his art to more people because some of the stuff it like inspires me to
Yeah. I
do
remember back in
artwork.
the Lay It Low days, he was pretty active on Lay It
Yeah.
Low back in the day. And that website disappeared and went to Facebook, and now don't really see much of him.
Yeah. It's a shame that went, it's how everything kind of becomes retro,
Right.
everything old becomes new again.
Yeah.
What if one day all of a sudden, boom, there's Lay It Low again.
Right.
And people are jumping right back in it again because it's not only a new page, it's kind of a nostalgia page, and everybody goes, oh man, I remember Lay It Low,
Right.
let's do it again.
Well, it's funny that you say that because if you talk to anybody my son's age or my daughter's age, Facebook is for old people. Twitter and Instagram's for the young people, and then all
Right.
the other Snapchats and everything else that young people are doing. But Facebook is for old people. They don't want to be affiliated with that. So,
Sure.
in a sense, Facebook was kind of the first social media outlet before Twitter, before Instagram, and this stuff came out for this type of, social media that we're used to today. And that is now kind of becoming the nostalgia of social media. is Facebook.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I always throw out MySpace out there when
Oh,
I'm talking to like younger guys, and I go, yeah, dude, you got a Facebook or something or Instagram? I can, no, dude, but you can get on my MySpace. I still have that, I think, you know.
right.
But
Here's what's
yeah.
funny about MySpace. When I had that blue car, a member of the Road Devils Car Club, which is a hot rod and custom car club, they asked me to be a prospect for them. And I was like, cool. And I said, how do we figure out what we're doing? They said, you got to get a MySpace. This is like right in 2000 or 2001. So you
Right.
got to get a MySpace. And I was like, no, I don't know, maybe 2005. I don't know. Either way, they said we all communicate through MySpace. I said the little kid site, the one that teenagers are using. Yeah, it's not just for teenagers no more. All these grown-ups and car clubs are all using it to communicate with. And I'm like, but I gotta get a MySpace that little kids are using. They're like,
Right.
just do it. And so, yeah, that's the only reason I had a MySpace was because of the car club.
Yeah. Well, about that time, everybody kept saying to me, dude, you got to get a website. You got to get this and that. So I ended up getting a MySpace, and I messed around with it for about 6 months and dropped it. And then the next thing you know, Facebook was out, and all the other stuff now. But a website, people kept telling me, you need a website, because that was the new thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I paid the dude across the street that lived from me $600 to make me a website page.
Wow.
I didn't know. And then I never used it, never even did anything with it. And that was 20 years ago or more,
Right. Yeah, about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, my dad, maybe less, maybe 7 years ago, my dad got me a GoDaddy.com.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, I paid for you to have this whole year. You now get to design your own website with it. I was like, oh, that's cool, because I was doing custom Hot Wheels and selling them and stuff like that. And I said, I could do custom model cars. I'll sell those too, I guess. So he said, here, this is your chance to make your website and do what you want. And same thing, never did anything with it. I made the
Yeah.
website and never did a damn thing with that website.
Yeah.
But
No,
it just,
I know.
it's the time, like the times just change.
Right.
Pretty soon, Facebook isn't going to be a thing, and Instagram is not going to be a thing, and it's going to be completely something different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hopefully YouTube will hold on for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my new thing now. I had a page years ago, channel.
Yeah, it's funny because as soon as you started your new page, somehow YouTube's algorithm pulled up some of your old videos because it recognized the name.
Right.
And so I would see I can't say a lot, a few of your older videos that you shot. I said, I remember seeing these before.
Right.
I'll rewatch it, see if it feels the same way it did when I first saw it. And everything is dated. So you're like, this isn't as cool as it was when I first saw it, but that's only because I've already seen it.
Right.
It's not new anymore. But
Yeah.
it still shows like a nostalgia part of our model car history.
Yeah.
Even though those videos aren't, 20, 30 years old, they're still old.
Right.
Without them, we probably wouldn't see that model, because I remember you saying at the last model car show, you get rid of a lot of your models to friends or people, whatever.
Right.
So if you don't have that model no more, you're not going to be able to make a video about it unless you just do a bunch of still photos.
Yeah, which I did just recently, did some still photo stuff because I had no other way of showing that stuff because I don't have them anymore. And and I kind of did it because I still have Photo Bucket, and my Photo Bucket's got like thousands of pictures, man, of model cars and stuff that I painted. That's all that's in there is stuff that I painted. And but they're all still pictures.
Right.
So they're
Yeah,
not,
'cause
they're really like worthless, really, but I hate to just toss them out, you know?
well, back in one of the lowrider bike issues, there was a yellow and possibly orange 63 Impala, suicide doors, and I think suicide hood that you had built.
Yeah. Yeah, the bad seed.
I loved that car. I didn't love it as much as that 58 wagon, but that thing was so neat looking.
Yeah. That's the car. I built that car because lowrider bike had just come out and I was thumbing through lowrider bicycle. And I remember I was sitting there with a buddy of mine, Ron Potts, and I told him, dude, I'm going to build a car to get in this magazine. Watch, I'm going to get in this magazine and I'm going to build a car, and that's what's going to do it. So I ended up building that 63 and I took it down to San Diego, put it in the show. It won Armando's Loco 64 was there. There was my car. There was Rick Hicks. Was it the Grapes of Wrath? I think it was called. And
Yeah.
53 Chevy. It was purple. It was beautiful. And my car won best interior. And I'm not sure what the other guys won. And I think I got like a second or third in lowrider with it. But anyways, lowrider bike was there. And they said, hey man, can we shoot your car? And I go, hell yeah. And that's the first one that got in that magazine. And then I
Yeah,
was in there a bunch of times after that.
we had this colored paper that they
Yeah.
sat it on, which didn't, I wouldn't say it did much for the car, but it made the whole photo just stand
Yeah.
out. Like they thought maybe the car wasn't enough for some reason. They thought, let's make more colors sparkle through this photo.
Yeah. It was a crumbled up piece of like aluminum paper, not foil, but like a paper.
Yeah,
And it was sitting there. It's almost like something you'd wrap
like
gifts in
ceramic.
or something,
Yeah.
you know, and it was all wrinkled up. And I remember Nathan is the guy that was it Nathan? I think that's who shot the pictures. But I remember him saying, look through the camera at it. So I did. I bent over, I looked through the camera, and man, I go, that looks fucking cool.
Right.
And
No, it
yeah,
did look
so
cool because
yeah,
there
he
wasn't
just
a
kept
lot of cars who did that way from that coverage.
right.
So that with the ready color that you painted it,
Yeah,
the whole photo just like popped.
yeah. Yeah, that car in that issue, it was in the issue, and then it was like featured like lowrider of the month, I think that month or something. So it was like a full half page of that car
Yeah.
in it. And from there, they called me and asked if they can come do a photo shoot. And then they called me one time a couple years later, and they had me go actually down to Lowrider magazine at the studio there and shoot the models in a studio. Me and George Ramirez.
Keep talking. I'm gonna go get these magazines.
Yeah. So yeah, this was the first and second. They actually came to my house, set up a bunch of models. I remember buying pizza for Nathan to feed him lunch there.
Oh, that's
But yeah,
awesome.
so it was pretty cool, you know. And it was the first time I'd been in there, and then over the years they just like promoted me in that magazine. It was
Oh no, they did. They
yeah,
most definitely did. But you know, it's cool because it literally got you to be famous. And
right.
you you became, you, Armando, David, a handful of other became the most famous modelers in lowrider magazine like history. Well, at
Right.
least
Yeah, I had an actual real car on the cover of Lowrider, and then I've had other cars on the inside of Lowrider, but nothing made me well known amongst the modelers until those model magazines came out.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to find that. God, looking at these magazines is so funny. You can see the model car shows that they labeled classic model car show. Because there's other cars that I want to talk to you about, but there's so many of them, you just kind of forget which ones that you wanted to talk about. Because how many model cars do you think you've got in these magazines? Like in all the magazines, not just Lowrider magazine.
I don't know. I've been in over 100 magazines since my first magazine, but
Look
you
at
know,
this.
a lot of those have the same cars. Yeah, that's David right there.
Showing how he packs his cars.
Mhm.
That's funny. 100 magazines. That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember as a kid being into real cars, and me and my buddy Julio Estrada, we've known each other since we were probably 12 years old. We still talk. He just texted me yesterday. We would sit around and look at car magazines and say, man, it'd be so cool to have a car in a magazine. And
Right.
And here it is all these years later, and I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to be in over 100.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So I found that issue, the first issue.
Oh yeah, there she is. Yeah.
Yeah, with the full description and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that, oh man, that thing is just everything about this car just screams awesome.
Dude, the night before that show, I was in a frantic. It wasn't done. And we had to drive down to San Diego the next morning. And the night before, like 12 o'clock at night, that car snapped in half.
Oh no.
I had the body off the chassis. I was doing some work, and you know, I kept the doors open on that car, right? So there's hardly anything holding it together except for the windshield post, and
Yeah,
just at the bottom of the rockers.
yeah.
It snapped right in half. So if you look at that car, it's got chrome rocker moldings on it, I think,
Is that what it's for? To hide that?
to cover that, and then you know, of course, the foil that. But yeah, I probably worked on that thing till 3, and then packed it and went straight down to San Diego, which is like a 2.5-hour drive.
Right. Dude, that's crazy.
But it was all worth it because it got in that magazine.
100% correct. Look, they at the back of the magazine, they put a full sheet, like an actual full sheet picture of it,
Right.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. I have that hanging in my model car room too.
That's cool. That trunk, I don't know if you can see this trunk. The trunk inner panels.
Right.
How do you do that? What is that? That chrome pleated?
At one time I was working for Disney as a production artist. They did t-shirt printing there, and we would do the artwork. And this guy walked into the art department, and he had a box and said, hey, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be in here. And I said, let me see it. I opened up the box, and there was a row of that stuff about 500 feet long by about 6 inches. So
Wow.
I said, let me go check and see if somebody knows where this goes. So I went into the dark room. I pulled off about 1.5 feet and cut it, wrote it back up, and then gave it back to the guy and said, no, dude, I don't know where it's. And I used it on my model cars. I wish I had more of that stuff. I don't know what it is or what it's used for, but it worked perfect in that car and a bunch of other cars that I've done.
That, I mean, because you know, back in the day, we had to use what we could find and what was available. And a lot of things weren't available. So to find something custom and unique like that, and that was unique. I don't think
Right.
that anybody else was using anything close to something that had like that tuck and roll look that was
Yeah.
chrome.
And I get, from that model car, that is the biggest question I get from that car is
Really?
people say, what is that? Where can I get it?
Because I was going to go with the steering wheel next. What the steering wheel looked like a spike from the photos. Wasn't a very
Right.
good picture of what that steering wheel was.
Well, if you notice in those photos, they're backwards. It shows it's got a right-hand drive.
I thought, oh, yeah, you're right. Because one photo does show that it's a right-hand drive.
Yeah, the negative or something was turned around when they developed those or however they do it. But it does not have a right-hand drive.
No, but that is a custom dash though. You cut
Yeah,
that.
I customized the whole interior on that car.
That's crazy. I love this car. And you gave this car away too?
I sold that car to, you ever heard of a shop called Big Kid Enterprises?
Oh yeah. I never
Yes.
went to them, but I've heard of them. They were in the
Yeah.
Lowrider magazine advertisements all the time.
Yeah, they bought that car and a couple of other cars that I had. I think they bought my 62 also. There's in another magazine, they did a feature on the 62 Impala with the flip front end. That's the purple one with the graphics.
That was yours. Yeah. Was that a replica of a real car?
No, it's just something I made up. I try not to do replicas because if you do replicas, they have to be pretty exact,
Right, they do.
Yeah.
Funny you say that because I think I might have told you at the show, I want to build a version of Las Vegas, but I want it to be the chrome colors, like a wrap, like those chrome reds and chrome blues.
Right.
I want to use those colors for the whole paint job, except for the mural part. So it makes the orange part of that paint job like chrome orange.
Right.
And then the blues, chrome blues, and so
the magenta and so on.
Yeah. But I don't know how I'm going to do that considering the whole quarter or the whole bottom half of the car is just one big fade that's underneath the mural. So I want to do it, but I don't think I can pull it off. So I might not do it. I don't know. But I'm also going to have the link in this video or in the description to your YouTube channel and to anything and everything else that you want to try to plug for anybody else to want to look you up or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I mean, I don't have as many subscribers as you have in your short period of time. I've been doing this for 3 years and my subscribers are pretty limited compared to Mr. Seed here, but I can still spread this video all over YouTube, or I'm sorry, all over Facebook, and then get a lot of people to get to know you better. Because that was the whole point of this, was to get to know you, to have you tell us what you wanted to tell us, and tell us a little bit of tricks and secrets and stuff, maybe. Good old days of Lowrider magazine. I was trying to find more stuff. I know they have a whole entire, well, I wouldn't say a whole magazine, but a whole 2-page spread on you.
Yeah, there's 2 of them, I think.
Yeah, I just, there's how many magazines in a year did they come out with? 4, 5?
Originally it was like 4.
Yeah, it was
quarterly. And then they came out with another couple, I don't know how many they actually did in a year. There's probably 6.
Yeah, because I know the very first one came out in fall or winter of '93. And then
Yeah.
after that, they kind of just kept on coming. But that's the problem, to know exactly which one is the one that, or which
Yeah.
one.
And I don't even know. So I don't know what months they are or what years they are.
I should have did a little bit of this research before I started this interview. But I was in this magazine too, twice.
Nice.
Both in '98, and both black and white photos, because once again, my dubs weren't nearly as good as your guys's.
Do you remember like the last lowrider bicycle? It had an orange 76 Caprice on the cover.
No, because honestly, I stopped collecting after like 2000.
Yeah.
Oh, here you are. You got the Riviera, and then you got your 62, and that 63. Oh, you use that 63 on the floor panels too, or that paneling, that chrome paneling for the floors too.
Yeah. That was the first center spread they did on me, was that one. But they had at one time, it was the 10 top builders in lowrider magazine model car type thing. And it was the very last issue, because I don't remember seeing an issue after that. And it was kind of neat because they had an actual picture of the inside of my model car room.
Oh, that's kind of like a farewell.
Yeah.
Bike magazine. So to show the best of the best, which makes sense. Because if you're gonna go away and disappear the magazine, you might as well show the best that was in the magazine.
Yeah. And I don't have that magazine.
Yeah, this was the first spread that they did for you.
Right.
So you got,
Yeah.
I believe it's the Riviera, no?
Yeah, 66 Riviera.
Yeah. And then your 63 and then that 62. I honestly, I've seen this 62 a million times through this magazine.
Right.
And even though it's on your spread, for some dumb reason, it never made sense that this was yours.
Right.
I don't understand why. I thought this was somebody else's, but probably I don't know. I couldn't tell you why I didn't think of that. But you created, isn't this a replica or
No.
almost a replica?
No. That's just a pink 66 Riviera.
Because those seats kind of look like coffin seats, kind of like that coffin themed Riviera. But that was a boat Riviera though, that had that. You want to see something funny? So back in Ontario, I took these really shitty photos of Armando's local 64.
Right.
And his 63 that he had there.
Yeah, I always like the color on that car.
Yeah, I love the interior. He had those 4 swivel seats.
Yep.
Those swivel seats, those were awesome. But then I also, in this same magazine, they did a spread on his local 64, and then I even got the centerfold, the original centerfold for the real car.
Yeah, nice.
And it drives me up the wall that he gave Edgar this damn car. And I only say drives me up the wall because this is my all-time favorite lowrider in the world.
Right.
To me, for some strange reason, there is no better lowrider. Even Las Vegas isn't better than this lowrider, but you know, that's just my opinion. But it's cool to go back and see a lot of your old work and stuff, because like I said, like without photos and without you having them to kind of talk about them, you've done so many over the years. It's kind of difficult to remember everything that came out.
Yeah, and there's times, especially on a real car or motorcycle, me and my son Sammy will be driving past it, and Sammy go, "Hey, remember when you painted that?" And I'll look at it and I'll go, "I painted that?" He goes, "You don't remember?" I've painted so many that some of them I have to draw my memory in order to even remember it.
Dude, check this out. I'm so glad this was a phase and it didn't last. But do you remember when they'd use those piping thread?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Is
even
that Carlos something? Carlos?
where's his name? Yeah, Carlos Avilar. Carlos Avilar.
Yeah.
I never cared for these wheels neither, or these tires. The fat
No.
wheels on spokes, those hop and hydro tires.
Right.
This seems so stupid to me. But what do I know? This made it into a magazine with colored photos, and my cars didn't. So I don't know. What do I know? That's kind of. I really should have found. They chose that for this photo. I don't know. I don't know, Gary. Some of these cars, they're cool, but you look at them today and you're like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all part of history, though, I guess.
No, they definitely are part of history. Because I'm looking at Highlander now. Yeah, that car's beautiful. I mean, even these murals. Talk about the murals that we were talking about earlier. You don't see murals like that anymore.
No.
And he even had it on the trunk. You see the
Right.
trunk right there? And he even had it on the quarter, on the side quarter.
Yeah.
I mean,
That car all open and closed too.
yeah, he showed that, yeah, on that last podcast that you were on. But
There's Victorville.
yeah, and I'm not it. I swear I was like that age when I was doing it, but I was mostly like these teenagers age. And I was thinking, I wonder if they'd put me in this magazine. Like I was at that show at that time. So why am I not in this magazine?
Yeah. Well, I was there, and is my name in the text somewhere?
Well, your
You just
car,
kind of scan
your
it real quick.
yeah. So this would have been the first
Yeah.
page of it. So Armando's 63 is there, and then his 65 is there, his
Yep.
Hopper. But they don't show any of your other cars. And I would almost think that maybe if they did show your car, your name would most likely be in
Well,
it.
sometimes they would just put my name, saying that
So
I was there.
Anthony Garcia's here. Uh, so they're talking about the people that won first, second, and third. David Anthony Garcia again.
I almost think I wasn't at that show because I don't remember the Armando 63 being at Victorville when I
Yeah.
was there.
I remember this car. I never got to see it hot, but I remember
Now,
it.
I've never seen that car in person, and I've seen it in magazines.
Yeah.
That's why I'm almost kind of thinking I wasn't there.
Right. I mean, that would make sense. Like this. How the hell did this make the magazine? What were they
Right.
thinking? It didn't even look good. Didn't look good then. It doesn't look good now. I don't understand how it made the magazine. Now that was a cool paint job back then. Do you?
Oh, I remember that car, that truck.
That's so funny. And then when wagons were pretty rare,
Yeah.
61. I don't know. There's a few of these cars though that I mean that trunk setup was so cool back then. Some of these models back then, they were I would say ahead of their time, even though they weren't ahead of their time. And your cars, your paint jobs were ahead of their time. Just so much stuff, Gary. I don't know. Well, I'm kind of done with that, with looking at those. I could look at those all day and still probably never find what I'm looking for.
Right.
I don't know. So you're showing in your last video that you're, well, not the last video, but of your 55 gasser.
Oh, yeah.
I'll show pictures of that too so people can see. But did you flare out those rear fenders?
Oh, yeah.
Because they look like they're more flared than they were supposed to.
Yeah, I added just a thin lip right around them just to kind of, hug the tire a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And then I cut the front end off because I'm making a tilt, which meant I had to build a firewall to it. But
so it didn't even come with a firewall, just the interior tub?
It came with a piece of a firewall that you slide down the middle. But once I cut the front end off, it didn't have any of the sides or the door jambs. So I had to make all that, which was not a big deal. I've already finished that. But that's going to be a cool car, I think.
You already picked the color or not?
Yeah, yet? I think I want to do it. It's going to be metal flake silver base, but I think the main color of the car is going to be candy lime green. And then I'm going to do panels and whatever, give it that really mid 60s to late 60s gasser, just stupid paint job on it.
Right. That'll be awesome.
Big giant blown motor, sticking out of it, and big stupid pipes.
Do you ever think about what your wildest paint job you've ever done might have been on a real car or model car?
No. Yeah. I'm really terrible about paint. I paint something and I don't think about it again. I mean, I have like favorites, but they're usually my latest paint job, not something that I did years ago, but like something that I've done recently, like my boat and trailer, the drag boat with, I like that. And it's simple, just magenta and candy blue and silver and black and white. It's nothing metal flaky. It's nothing, crazy, no patterns. It's just a simple paint job. And I think right now, that's like one of my favorites. But a month from now, that could be in the wind. And I think the new one's my favorite,
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, plus you kind of get you figure out new things and new ways to paint something that you probably painted 100 times, and now it's you found a different way to do it, or different ideas, different schemes you can think of, and whatever. And sometimes you can go so wild that it's too wild.
Yeah.
Because I look at that 61 wagon I did, and that thing was the wildest paint job I've ever done. And now that I've shown it so many times, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, that's about as wild as I go. I don't think I'll go that wild again.
Yeah.
Because it was good for the time, and now it's maybe not that good for the time. I don't know. Yeah.
In one of those old lowrider magazines you have, they did another 2-page article on my builds. And there's a glass house, 76 glass house in there. And that one was pretty wild for its day. Back in the day, I mean, it was pretty wild.
I'm gonna keep looking through this because I know it's somewhere. Here's another good example. Look at this. How, Gary? It has no tires. The firewall is made out of junk. And it's got the stupid magazine fucking logo. Oh my God. I don't understand. I don't understand, Gary.
Yeah. Let me look. I've got that one hanging on my wall. Let me just check the date on it.
Remember when they were using O-rings for tires?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I'm glad
Um,
that's over.
February 97.
97. February 97. So that's fall. So let's go back.
Now that glass house had a pretty wild paint job, especially for today on a model car.
Spring might be. Spring 97. And they just showed it, or it was a
That was a
how-to?
two-page article.
So I'm looking at fall 97.
Yeah, down at the bottom of the page, it'll say what month it is.
Yeah, not fall. I meant spring 97. So it's spring. So maybe magazine before it. Because February should be winter still.
But at the very bottom of the page, it'll say the year and the month.
So Little Woman was in this issue. God, they got some. It's just amazing how many. When you look back at these magazines, how many dumb cars were in this magazine? Cars that didn't deserve to be in here, but for some dumb reason they said, let's put it in there. Okay, so this is January, February 97, so it should be in here. So we got Little Woman, that El Camino. Those are it. God, that was bad too. Well, ain't gonna lie, Gary. I don't see that in this issue. Because I have
February.
Yeah, it says January, February 97. And it's got it's this magazine.
I
'Cause
don't recognize that cover.
Yeah, down here it says January, February 97.
What about on the bottom of the page itself? Like just open it up and then see what's on see down there in the, nothing? Yeah, I don't even recognize that cover.
Yeah, because
That's
it's got
weird.
it showed this the Little Woman for the first time.
Huh.
And had that bed dancer truck. This one. Funny though, the owners of this bike, the kid's dad that did all the twisting for this, the kid went to my school and he said,
Huh.
we're building a bike for this upcoming lowrider show. And I was like, yeah, sure you are, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. And then literally 6 months later, this magazine comes out with that bike on it. I was like, oh shit, you were right. You did build that. So I'm thinking it's gotta, I don't know why yours is saying that, but it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't say January on it at all. It just says February 1997.
That's weird. Because now I got spring of 97. And spring shows this cover, But even this doesn't have your glass house in it. But it does feature that 59, that gold 59. And then it introduced this pickup truck to the world. But it also introduced this one for the first
Yeah, the
time.
68
Yeah. God,
Aztec Warrior or whatever that thing was called.
Rebuilt this? Who rebuilt this?
If anybody rebuilt it, it's probably Armando.
Probably him then.
Yeah, that car belonged to a guy named Josue.
Yeah, it wasn't, I mean, he didn't like change anything. He just freshened everything up.
Yeah.
I mean, just like that, the mural on that. I mean, it's just amazing. And then the mural on this truck that
Right.
goes down the side of the truck. Amazing. But what I really wanted to show, oh, look at that 59. God dang, firewall is perfect.
You know who did that firewall and that flip front end and those suicide doors?
You?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. That's
That
George's
thing,
car.
man, that thing, that was one of the most beautiful 59s.
Yeah, it was really nice.
But the one I really love.
Oh, you see that truck?
Yeah.
You know who painted? Do you know who painted that truck and the car below it?
Yours truly.
Yep.
So I don't know what this is supposed to be.
That's the pipe dream. That's Jose. That's Joe Garcia, David's brother.
But what was it based off of though? Because it's so heavily modified.
There's no telling what the heck he built that out of, because he's actual. They had a custom shop called the Dragon Shop, and they actually built cars that look like that. And then as a hobby, him and David did model cars. So that truck was David's also, and that pink car below it.
Yeah, that's crazy because that truck is awesome. I mean, that's a replica of the real truck.
Yeah, the Quiet Storm.
Right.
Without being too close to the because I painted that thing out of my head. So
oh wow.
Yeah, without
I mean,
then
I
the
love
bottom
that
one.
bed. That bed is unbelievable.
Yeah, the whole build is awesome. If you look at his door jamb that David built in that truck. I mean, it's perfect. And then the roll-up windows that he put in it.
See, that's the thing though. Like these windows are already rolled up, so you can't really even see them. But
yeah, but if you saw them in person, they had the perfect tint to them.
Wow. The one I've been in love with this 65 forever. I don't know why. It's too weird, but I just love that somebody did it.
Yeah, that's another Carlos car, the guy that did all the rope stuff.
Yeah, because that's got the pipe cleaner seats and stuff.
Yeah.
And stupid pipe cleaner. It's so funny that pipe cleaner was even a thing. But God, this 59 here though, man, everything about this just screams beautiful. And then even in the firewall, he put that little vent, that window vent or whatever. Damn. But I'm trying to find your car, man. So this is spring. This is spring of 97. Like this stupid dually. That shouldn't have even been in there. I don't know. I'm gonna piss some people off that hear this. They'll be like, that was my car. I was so happy you made it in there. Well, I don't know what to tell you. So this one, this is summer 97. This has got this trike on it.
Oh, and it's got, is that George's? No, that's not George's car. I think that's Beetle.
Well, shows these, and then
Oh, no, that's George. That's the car.
yeah. So this
Yeah.
must be the one that this got his centerfold. Remember they give you the little
Oh, yeah. I still got some of those.
yeah.
Yeah, me and George went down the same day. We rode down there together to Lowrider magazine, and they shot his cars, and they did that pictorial right there, and then they did mine also.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's dude, the 59 is just goodness.
Yeah, that blue is something called purple.
Purple?
Purple. It's like a blue and purple.
That's cool. So there's
And that's Beetle.
yeah.
Yeah,
I've
Beetle
loved
has a
this one.
convertible.
I've loved the seats. I know where they come from, but I've always loved them in that. This car looks so cool. Still looks cool. I
Oh,
think
there's
this is
my 58. See that
yeah.
orange 58? Oh, nope, that one and the one on the other side of the page.
Yeah, there you go.
That one right there. That's one of mine.
And then I think this is the first time we see Las Vegas because it wasn't in any of the other issues. But yeah, then your other 58's right there. This was the lower left.
Wow, dude. I don't even think I have that magazine.
Yeah,
That's wild.
Well, you need to have it because now
Well,
you did this whole entire page just on this 59.
yeah, I have a bunch of them somewhere.
So here's what's funny. The two magazines I was in, the only two magazines of this magazine I was in, I set aside so I wouldn't lose them. And then I moved out here to North Carolina. Those are the only two magazines of 98 I don't have. If you can believe that BS.
Oh, I think I'm in that one right there.
This one?
Yeah. Oh, maybe not. I'm on the cover with the paint.
This, hold up. Oh, yeah. Because yep. Dude, look at this ad right here. For Big Kids Emporium.
Yep.
This is their whole ad. I mean, you got the resin boots and the resin skirts, and then resin camper shells and seats. That's
Yeah,
so
that place was right around the corner from my house.
really.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go.
Go bango. Yep. Oh, and here, there you go. You got your two glass houses right there.
Yeah. So that middle one was pretty well, the bottom one too, but it was pretty far out there for back then.
Yeah, it really was.
You know.
And damn, that
Yeah,
58.
there's that 58.
It's so clean looking. I mean, I don't.
That was a 58 that David Garcia turned into a convertible, and then traded it to me.
Oh, geez.
And then I painted it and finished it.
And then your wagon. I love the interior of that wagon.
Yeah.
It's just like some of this stuff is really ahead of its time. I mean, even the sunroof in this, you have it tinted to kind of match, for the most part, the interior and the exterior.
Right.
And even on this, I mean, that's yellow and that's an orangish. How'd you do the tint? Did you paint it over the clear, like a clear paint color?
It's probably a colored piece of plastic that I found.
It's great. Great, Gary.
Thank you.
Look, there's Vegas again. And you got this. Look at this wild paint job. That thing is, I don't know. I don't like them colors, but it's cool either way. Oh, here we go. Speaking of.
Yeah. Yeah, see, it was Hector's Lazaro.
I mean, even today's model cars don't have the type of muraling like this. I mean, he's got murals of vehicles on his vehicle,
Right.
and that's all hand painted. I mean, even you got even little Latino girls down there, or maybe they're not girls, maybe they're guys. I don't know. This whole thing, Gary. Mm, I'm surprised you didn't do it.
Nope.
So, do you do mural painting like that?
No.
You do
No.
do some painting though. Well, you don't need to because the rest of your work stands for itself. There was a shop that I think had two shops in it, or not two shops in it, two stores, one in Riverside and one maybe in Pomona, and it was called Low Down Hookups.
Oh, I remember that. No,
Yeah,
they had a low down hookups in Compton.
Compton, that's where it was, not Pomona.
Yep. Yep. I've been to those shows a few times.
Yeah, so have I, and I won a few awards from those shows. And I still have a green sweatshirt of theirs hanging in my closet.
Huh.
And it's so funny because that's the oldest thing I have from when I was a young kid.
Right.
But I also have this hat that I got from, I might have got it from Lowdown Hookup. It's a white baseball cap with a 64 Impala on it. And then it has the 64 behind the car. I still have that too from when I was young. Well, man, it's 12 o'clock here. Is it 12 o'clock there?
Yep. Pretty much.
I'd love to pick this up again. Maybe we don't have to do the interview when I go down to your house for that model car show, but I do want to get some like B footage of your shop, of your paint
Cool.
jobs, and like I said earlier, I'll have photos over a lot of the stuff we're talking about. So just in case the camera didn't pick up those photos in the magazine that well, they'll be able to see clear photos and whatnot of everything we were talking about. But
Yeah.
this was fun. I really enjoyed talking with you. Going back.
Yeah, it was
down.
fun. You know, I like talking about just model cars and old times and just the same old shit that we all like,
Yeah,
and all remember.
that's literally the best part of going for me. Going to the shows is talking with everybody that speaks my language.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the best part, is because they know what you're talking about when you get there, as opposed to here. Nobody knows what I'm talking about in my house.
Exactly. And when it's always on your mind, you need somebody to talk to about it, because
Yeah.
talking to yourself gets a little old after a while.
Right.
Well, all right, Gary. I'll do the sign off and then we can say our goodbyes and whatnot. But if anybody's still watching this, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you want, and me or Gary can answer it if it's a question comment. And until the next episode, we'll see you guys next time. See you later.
All right, cool.
All right, everybody, that was Gary Seeds, master car modeler. Like you saw in the photos, I mean, guy is pretty good. Obviously, not everybody's cup of tea is in what he builds, but I mean, his paint work is phenomenal. He speaks my language, which is lowriders. Um, grew up in Southern California like I did. I'll tell you my little history, just kind of like I said in the video, but I grew up idolizing this guy's models, and to now be friends with him to where we can talk like we're just good old buds. It's, I wouldn't say it was a dream come true, definitely not a dream come true, but it's just one of those things in your life where you feel like you've made it. And your skills may not be up to his. I mean, my paint skills are nothing compared to his. Like, not even, doesn't even go on a radar compared to what his are. But just him being so humble and so willing to talk and willing to share and be nice, and to look at me, somebody that idolized him my whole modeling career, and now to be friends with him is just one of those crazy, awesome things that you can look back on your life and be like, I don't know what you'd be like. You just be like, yep, I made it. Um, but anyways, like in every video, we'll have the links to his information underneath in the description below. So be sure to check that out of his YouTube channel. He's posting a lot of videos on there, and how-tos now, which is pretty cool. And always, there is a Patreon if you choose to use it. If anybody's even here listening to this, if you want to use it, I would appreciate it, but that's up to you. Um, but until next video, stay tuned because there's more coming. See you later.